Welcome back to Doom Eternal. Sorry if it's a bit of a shorter part. It's awkward timing sometimes where it's like, you could have a part that's 43 minutes long, but we don't really do that for games like this. Also, this puzzle stumped me for a little bit. The platform
I
that
got
raises
stuck
you,
here for a while.
Yeah, the platform that raises you up is not just a platform, it's the key to the door.
Note that Ryan said for games like this, as if there are other games in which we do long
I'm
pauses.
I'm giving excuses for Lewis.
Okay. I'm sure he appreciates them.
Not really. I don't really need anyone making excuses for me. The only excuse I need to do long parts is because that's just my preference. Also,
It depends on the kind of game for me. I remember way back when I tried to record Fire Emblem Awakening, which, I mean, technically I still do have it recorded. The quality of the video is just unacceptable by today's standards. The parts were like 40 minutes long because I didn't want to chop a Fire Emblem
Map in half.
part in half. Yeah, because that's just...
but yeah,
You get halfway through the mission, you're going to be like, what the hell?
with RPGs, it never feels like you make any progress inside of an hour, you know?
Yeah.
And that's...
And even then, I think the parts were 45 minutes long, and I had to cut like all of the support conversations and other stuff like that. I need to get my DS capture card fixed because there's a lot of games on DS I would like to record.
I can imagine. There are a lot of games on DS I would like to play. I just don't like handheld gaming all that much.
Is there a Doom? There was a Doom GBA port, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, I have it.
How does it play?
Better than the Super Nintendo port, surprisingly.
Huh.
Uh,
Although, to be fair, the Super Nintendo port isn't exactly good.
oh no, it sucked.
I mean,
But,
aside from looking like garbage, what made the Super Nintendo port so bad?
It didn't have a soundtrack for one.
No, you're confusing it with the Jaguar port, which
Right.
is, I think, even worse than the... Oh, wait, no, the Jaguar port was alright, but it didn't have music. The Super Nintendo port, like, it was fine for the most part, but it ran at, like, a fixed 15 frames a second.
Oh.
So it was mostly just performance that just made it unbearable.
You see, I would really like to know how well the average PC of the time really played Doom and see how well that compared. You know, because nowadays you can
that'd
run
be
Doom
interesting.
at 50,000 frames per second no
It's,
matter
As-
what
As,
computer
as,
you're
some,
running
as
on.
someone who was actually around when Doom came out, it ran fine.
They ran fine? Okay.
Here's the thing about PCs at the time, is that nowadays we're all about the PC gaming master race, okay? We all associate PCs with ridiculously powerful hardware that does all the same things that consoles do, except better. Back in the day, it was a lot different. It's not that one had better hardware than the other, it was just they had different capabilities to each other.
Yeah.
Like, if you tried doing a side-scroller on a goddamn PC, it'd be a choppy mess. But they could also run other kinds of games a lot smoother than you would find them on consoles. It's weird.
I want to say we talked about this a bit last recording session, but it was
Yeah.
something about how, like, back then, certain parts for your PC just couldn't run certain games, and if you didn't have that part, you were just kind of shit out of luck.
I think what we
Yep.
talked about earlier in the playthrough was actually hardware standardization and how...
Oh, that might have been
Yeah,
it.
all the graphics hardware at the time was just really, really different in architecture from each other.
But basically, Tim might be too young to remember this. Back when Doom came out, it didn't entirely run purely on the operating system like we think of it today, which is why you could have the whole Doom was installed on more PCs than Windows at the time. Sort of statistic.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh
It-
yeah,
it-
because you would just go into the boot menu and boot it through the disk instead of the OS.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
Even if you were running things through Windows, you probably opened it through the DOS prompt anyway.
Yeah.
Most likely. So yeah, Doom
That's
didn't.
interesting.
The games back then on PCs didn't inherently use the operating system.
That's way before my time. I just know this secondhand.
You know, like 10. I mean, not Ted. Lewis and I are old, so we remember that shit.
10.
My grandparents introduced me to Wolfenstein 3D, the shareware version, of course, on their old ass Windows 3.11 computer. So I remember
Nice.
Program Manager. That's how old I am. I remember Program Manager.
You see, I don't really remember any computer stuff older than like Windows 95 or 98.
Program Manager was actually in Windows 95 or 98. It was just buried.
Yeah, no, I do remember
It was for
occasionally my
people
dad
who
would bring
preferred
up
the
the
old
DOS.
style.
Yeah, my dad did occasionally need to bring up the DOS prompt because he does tech stuff for his work. I remember actually one of the things that I did when I was like 10 years old was I took one of my dad's books on learning how to write HTML, and I did it to make my store on Neopets. And I got my store to play the Yoshi's Island theme song, specifically the one from the Paper Mario rendition. Because I didn't know that they were the same song back then, obviously, and it was just like, was that a jump cut or did you?
No, they're teleporters.
Okay, that it looked like a jump cut.
This entire arena feels like a multiplayer map again.
I mean, kind of. What I'm doing right now in
Yeah.
game is called a Slayer Gate. There are 6 of them in the game. If you complete, for each one you complete, you get a key that unlocks the Unmaker, which is a different kind of BFG.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So this is just an optional like battle arena
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, you
thing.
don't have to do it.
Okay.
The
I
game even
love
recommends you come back
these.
to these, but I'm doing them as early as you can. Except for, I think, one of them, because I think the last one is in the level where you get your special, like, one-hit kill sword thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes that Slayer Gate way easier if you just go back later in the level with fast travel.
Yeah, I made a mistake of not doing that.
I mean, I did that the first time, and then I'm like, oh, I get my special sword in this stage. But when
Yeah.
I record it, I'm just going to get the sword and then fast travel to it.
So is that trying to replicate the OP laser sword from Halo 2?
No, that's just... it's a... I mean, kind of, if you want to look
I
at
could
it that
kind
way.
of see the similarities.
But, no, there's a lore reason for why he has the special
Oh, so
sword thing.
I know it's the sword from the end of the first game.
Yes.
Kind of.
Well, kind of. So it's not the sword from the end of the first
It's
game?
not the exact same one, but it is the same
Technology
idea.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
technology. That's a good way to put it.
Cool.
So this these Slayer gates. Speaking of, between this session and the last recording session, I tried to do another run of Ultra Nightmare, the permadeath difficulty, and I got all the way to to the last Slayer gate, and I was just feeling really cocky, like, yeah, I could do this, and then I died to the Archvile.
Well, at least he died to something...
At
At least he died to something hard.
Yeah.
At least he didn't die to, like, an imp or something.
Yeah, I thought about coming back with the laser sword, and I'm like, you know what? No, I can do this.
Ha. Archvile is the worst enemy in the game.
Have we found that one yet?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so I'm sure there'll be plenty
To-
of bitching when we see one.
Yes, but to paraphrase, to kind of like shorthand why everyone hates him. Okay, so make an enemy who summons other enemies and make him really fucking beefy.
Oh boy.
Which in old Doom wasn't quite so bad because he didn't move as much as he does in this game.
Yeah. In the original Doom, he more prioritized trying to kill you rather than just sitting back and resurrecting shit. But in this, he just literally hides and spawns stuff.
So I'm trying to remember. There's effectively 3 classic Doom games, which is 1, 2, and 64. Where are the other 62?
God.
And then there's Doom 3, which is its own
Which
thing.
doesn't count anymore, so.
Well, I mean, I know there are plenty of people who like Doom 3.
It's not a terrible
wrong.
game, but in terms of what's going on in the Doom lore, quote unquote, it doesn't matter.
It's very detached. It's very much its own thing.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. So there's effectively like 6 Doom games. There's no like obscure Doom that I'm missing or anything like that?
I mean,
Not
there's
really.
some spin-offs, but not really, unless you
It-
count Doom 64 for Apple phones.
It's also
Or sorry,
a
no, Doom RPG, not Doom 64.
There's a
it-
Doom
it-
RPG.
Yeah.
It's also a matter of how much do you want to count like fan-made maps and all that other crap that was going
Well-
on during the day?
Yeah.
Fan ports and stuff are
Well, I
a
mean-
huge
well, I
part
mean-
of the original Doom's legacy.
Well, yeah, because level editors and all that. And the thing is, some were received better than others so much that they kind of became somewhat canon.
Yeah, there's
an extent, like
there's a
Brutal Doom
weird
and all
gray
that.
line. There's a weird gray line with like fan megawads is what they would call them, like just big map packs.
Yeah.
Because the Final Doom expansion was actually a fan creation that id Software was like, hey, we really like this, let us sell it. So it's considered official, it's considered quote-unquote canon, even though there's really no story significance.
That reminds me oddly of the origin story behind Ms. Pac-Man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that is the same origin story of Miss
Yeah,
Pac.
for those not in the know of Miss Pac-Man, just for the people watching, Miss Pac-Man was a fan creation, was a fan mod by people I think in New England, if I'm remembering correctly. Which is basically, it's like, hey, we played Pac-Man a whole bunch. What if we give it like new levels and make it harder and shit? And Namco was like, okay, you're kind of infringing on our copyright, but also this is really fucking good. Let us sell it.
That would never happen
Alright.
today.
I mean, it
If
kind
I-
of did
if-
with Sonic Mania.
No, that
It's
no,
basic.
they recognize.
Well, I mean, that was commissioned
they,
by Sega,
they,
right?
they recognize the talent of these fan makers, but the project itself was started after Sega hired them.
That is fair. The sequence of
It would
events is
it would
somewhat
be more
different,
it would be more like saying Sega bought the license to Sonic before and after the sequel or something.
Yeah, that would never happen nowadays because they would consider it a legal precedent for people to do things without permission.
Yeah.
So there's all this complicated lawyerly stuff that would discourage people from. It's pretty much the same reason why the Mother 3 fan translation will never be an official translation.
Yeah, exactly. But there is also a lot of weird legal stuff regarding a lot of like Doom and also a lot of other first-person shooters from that era. I know Duke Nukem 3D has a lot of them. I think Quake.
Well, Quake is a modified Doom engine back in the day.
I know, but like you could go to big box stores and there would just be unofficial level packs for these games on
Well,
the shelf that you
I mean-
could buy.
I mean, that dates back to, the Atari and ColecoVision shit.
With id Software, they deliberately encouraged it though. Like with the very first, like the original release of Doom before it got sold in retail stores, they approached a bunch of like ma and pa game shops and were like, "Hey, we just want to get this game out there. You can sell it, put it on a disc, whatever. You don't have to give us the money. We just want to put it out there." And so, as a result, there's a bunch of like weirdly bootleg boxes of Doom and Quake and all that out there.
Huh.
Yeah. It was a different time. But
Well, it was back in the days when you couldn't technically oversight anything.
well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
nowadays I don't think you could sell. Well, actually, no, never mind, because you can sell mods on Steam now.
even in more modern times, there are developers who do market games with the modding community in mind. You can usually tell which ones these are because they also program the games with the modding community in mind. For example, BioWare. The Dragon Age games are so modular that all you have to do to get a mod working is drop it into a folder called Override, and it will pick up the mod and act as if it's installed.
That's pretty cool.
Alright, so I'll see you all in the next part of Doom Eternal.